But as
and there we have it.
Muse on the hypotheticals, the game is underway as we see Aurora Lopez and Nada Berlin, as you mentioned yesterday.
People who don't play the Berlin make it a lot more attractive to play 1a4. And bishop takes e6 is a sideline which has not been particularly popular these days, but it's a kind of a timeless classic. It gives white decent playing chances. And Magnus with a slightly unusual take on it, because the old theory, if we bring up the position they have, the old theory after knight b2 castles used to be knight c4, which was supposed to force f7, f6, and then knight h4, aiming for some concrete play connected with knight f5. Black would sometimes reply with rook f7, bishop f8, or there was another school of thought which said that knight should just be destroyed the moment it appears on f5, if, let's say, queen d5, aiming for just play in the center. But Magnus says, this is an anti-Berlin structure, and I got a good version of it, and I don't need to follow that old theory. So he goes a4 instead. Black replies with a5, b3, f6, and only knight h4 here. So a similar idea by Magnus, but with a slight new twist. Knight f5, knight h6. Ding seemingly not a believer in bishop takes f5 here.
And now knight to c4 by Magnus.
So we get what we normally get in the structure, but with the a4 and b3 included, and Black having played a6, a5, which is not always so great, because sometimes that knight on c4 needs to be chased away by b7, b5, and that is made slightly more difficult by having the pawn on a5, which might drop after a b, c, b, and knight takes a5.
And Magnus quickly taking on e7.
After b6, yeah. He's taken on e7.
Takes. I guess he will switch now to some play connected to f2, f4, maybe even immediately, but no, he prefers to wait for the time being, knight e3. I used to think, as a Spanish player, I've played the Spanish with Black my entire life. If you showed me this position when I was a kid, I would say Black is slightly better. Now I know it's not true, but I used to think, how is this ever a problem for Black if I can play c5, put this knight on d4, and just cruise?
And then why did you see the light? What was it that showed you that white actually is better?
Well, the whole structure has been discussed so much these days, in particular through the not via this line, but via the anti-Berlins, that you begin to realize that even very slow play connected with, let's say, g3, king h1, and then f4 is often quite a problem for Black, and it's very difficult to create much in the way of counterplay. Yes, you get your knight to g4, but White could actually play around it, so to speak, ignore it and just continue with his play on the king's side. And this is also, I think, two blitz games in this event, and potentially more if they face off in London in the finals.
Yeah. So queen d2, bishop b7 quickly played by Liren.
Magnus seemingly very content to just improve his position gradually, not committing to any one plan of action. Rook a1, rook a d8 on the board. The pawn on e4 is now hanging, so he'll have to do something about that. You could maybe make an argument for just playing f3, bringing the queen over to f2, and then, once again, carefully considering whether you want to play for g3, f4. And there I stopped, because I wanted to say or, but there's really no or about it. If you don't push for the f4 break, it's really unclear to me how you make any progress whatsoever in this position.
Because if playing for h4, for instance,
I don't think it does anything. I think Black is not obliged to react to h4, h5 in any way.
Yeah, and that makes a potential.
And this is why the bishop on b7 is so important. If you imagine White playing something like, once again, I need to make some passing moves for Black here, so I will do that for a bit. Once you push f4 here, Black almost always reacts by taking on f4 and playing f6, f5 himself. And you have this strange situation where there's this monster on b2, but there's also potentially a very, very strong bishop on b7. And the one on b2 can be closed down by Black playing knight e6, d4 at some point. And if you imagine the bishop on b7 getting free reign in the structure, it becomes a very, very strong piece. But we are some way away from this yet. And Ding makes a very interesting choice here. I really like this. I don't know if he will be in time, but the concept is is well known, but it's always nice to see it trying to be implemented. He goes king f7 here, indicating that he would very much like this king to be actually on b8 and not g8.
The Trojan king walk.
Yeah. White is not that far away from playing g3 and f4 here, so I'm not sure if he will have all the time that he requires to get the king all the way to b8. But as a concept, it always brings a smile to your face.
Also, it brings time on the clock, because
Yeah.
when your opponent is aware that this is what you want to do, he starts thinking, how do I refute this? Somehow I anticipate this particular maneuver, since you know it's strong. And what it adds is, not only when your king gets over there, it's not only a measure of security, as Magnus has finally moved his queen to f2. It's not just a measure of security, it also allows you to begin your own pawn storm
Absolutely.
on the other side.
Absolutely.
And by getting the king, and the king is now on e8, queen h4, quickly on the board. I don't know if this stops him from playing.
Well, if you move your king to c8 now, the pawn on e5 will hang.
Yeah, but
Right,
you can maybe spend a tempo on playing rook d7 and do it this way.
And he's immediately gone to d7, and we see this amazing prance across the board by the king. But as you mentioned, Jen, there's no king c8 right on top of
You
this
got
moment.
g5.
Actually, bishop e5, g5
Yeah.
would still work for him.
Good point. Good point. Good catch.
Do we need to react to knight d5 is the question. Can we, because if we can take, I think we should take. Something like this. If this doesn't lose, you probably should do it, but there's queen g4 check. It feels awkward. But the thing is, I think you can just say, okay, what have you achieved? Oh no, maybe you have actually achieved something. So knight d5 becomes a very crucial thing to calculate right now.
Knight
It needs to be assessed correctly, because if you give black one more move to play king c8, he basically achieves his objective and should be doing fine.
I like
Knight d5, there's queen f7 though.
And f4 doesn't work. Yeah.
f4, you can take on d5 and now take on f4.
Yeah, f7 is of course a better square than g7 because you have more things under control there. And fe5, I mean, it looks beautiful, but it does nothing at all. And black will convert eventually because there's no attack. The bishop on b2 is not participating in any of this. And Magnus goes f4 straight away. Whoa, this is very interesting.
Okay, so what's his idea if knight takes f4?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure this out, and so far coming up short. I'm not sure what this is. Maybe he wants to go g3 and then knight g5. Feels very speculative. Feels like it's a move you play in blitz.
Is there bishop e5 here? No.
Fe,
no,
no.
just fe.
No,
And
there's
rook f4.
There's rook f4, knight g5, but once again, I'm having a very, very hard time.
And Ding is as well. Ding Liren is, as he's taken on f4 to challenge Magnus. And that's the thing about that king maneuver, as he has sacrificed the exchange, is it does get your blood boiling. And Magnus
Knight
just said,
g4, I guess.
I wanted to go for this play very quickly before anything else, before that king actually reaches the c8 square. And for the moment, it is not there. But what does he do about g5?
G5 queen h6 is his point.
So he's just trying to take the dark squares.
He's playing against the weakness on f6, and he's also playing against the fact that black is currently in the middle of the king walk and has to solve immediate problems.
What an awesome concept. I love this. F4, I mean, I don't know if it's like the best combination ever, but it's just such a creative idea.
It is a very nice idea, and also it reinforces what we were trying to say, that the plan of getting the king over to b8 is extremely strong if it prompts Magnus to go for this sacrifice, just to not allow black safe passage.
Yeah, that's so instructive. That's what you're told. If the king is unsafe, you just have that one moment to maybe break open the center and take advantage of it. If you let that moment pass, it's gone forever. And Magnus sees that moment. Will it pay off over the board? Certainly he's giving Ding Liren some massive practical problems, although for the moment it's Magnus who's down on the clock as he does play queen to h6. But if you had to play a side here, it's easier to play the position for white, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. It might not be sound, but you do know what your next moves are. You know what your plan is, and it's also eaten away quite significantly into Ding's time advantage. And Ding goes queen e6, and now you can start picking up those pawns. Knight f6, he'll play king c8, Magnus will take on g5.
There we have it. As this is a brilliantly played
Hang on a
game by
second.
both players so
F3
far.
might be very strong, and yeah, this is what he does. F3 with the
Rook g8 idea.
Yeah, gf rook g8 just loses on the spot.
This is problem times for Magnus, because even though you got back something, The reality is, black is perfectly safe now with the king on c8, and he does have a pair of
Rook
rooks,
G8 anyway.
which he has now played rook g8, and it is Magnus who is in trouble here. He had to take and capture, and the g2 pawn is going to drop, and his initiative...
More importantly, the c2 pawn is going to drop, and then the
as
full
well.
structure.
It is completely winning for black now. This opposite colored bishop is this the first time we've seen Magnus in dire straits, as rook g2 check is on the board, and I mean he's completely busted. Don't trade queens, just attack the king like crazy. Magnus is lost.
Objectively, this has to be pretty bad for white, although you still need to play precisely, and queen e5 is a very smart move.
But wait, queen g6. Queen g6, how do you deal with the mating scenario?
Is f2 coming?
Oh, yeah.
Or some weird rook move. I mean, your g2 square is tenderoni, and he's found it.
There it is.
And Magnus is dead. He
right,
has to find something, but it's lost.
To illustrate Maurice's point of queen e7, there's just rook takes h2.
That is correct.
And
That
mate
is
on the
not
next
leave.
move.
That is.
He has not lost any game so far, but it looks like his blood is about to get tasted by one Ding Liren in this game, because Magnus has no moves. He is crushed. This is over.
Yeah, it's also very difficult for black to go wrong here. I think the best you can hope for is some kind of a sequence.
Down to 3 seconds. Finally move h4.
F2 is good enough.
F2 looks like a killer, but he's played bishop c6 instead.
Well, securing the e8 square and preparing for queen g4. But then after queen f4, it's maybe slightly tricky, although rook g3 probably still wins, right? Or rook takes c3. Yeah, rook takes
He
c2
just
is
played rook takes c3, threatening checkmate.
rook g1, and now queen e6 threatening mate on h3, and yeah.
Oh, he
even
just
goes
played-
back to g2, that's probably even cleaner. Queen e3, and now queen g4 ends the game on this. Queen g3 doesn't matter.
Forced
There it
resignation.
is. What a game. Ding Liren, first man to taste Magnus's blood, and